Hi. I know I've been a stranger for a while. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Um, I celebrated a birthday. Yay! Clank, 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 clank. Pew, 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 pew. And as I prepared for that birthday, and in the weeks since my birthday, it's almost been a month since my birthday, I've been really, really reflective and taking note of things in myself that need improvement, ways that I think that need improvement, habits, and all of that kind of stuff. And also just checking in with myself. I think it is so important to get in touch with you and your heart and where you are in the moment, not where you want to be, not where you've been, but where you are. And it has been so amazing and humbling and weird and necessary. So I had to take that time. I found myself getting very overwhelmed by the pressure I was putting on myself to maintain this channel. Even filmed a few full-on videos that I never posted because they were just, in my opinion, very chaotic. Very, very chaotic, very kind of all over the place, and me just trying to get information out and really not even being myself. And so I knew I needed to take a break. And so I did. I've taken a social media break, gotten back on, gotten distracted, taken another break, got back on, got distracted. Trying to figure out that whole boundary with being online. If you have any tips, please put them in the comment section about like how to engage with social media. And then each platform is different because I don't scroll endlessly on Facebook. I don't scroll endlessly on Instagram, but TikTok, baby, I could scroll on there like it's a job, like an 8-hour shift, which is ridiculous, but it's fascinating. It's a great way to waste time and learn a couple things along the way. So I'm trying to figure all that out, but I can say that I'm really excited about what I've been working on. I had time to like figure out what the next couple of videos are going to be and what I'm going to be talking about and how I'm going to frame it all for different platforms. And so I'm really excited about unfolding it all and sharing what I have learned and what I have discovered and sharing those things with you. You probably can even notice on this video, I feel like I'm way calmer, not as critical about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. I'm just being me, you know? That's what this is about. You're here so we can get to know each other better. So thank you for coming back to my channel. If you have not already, please subscribe, like, comment, and share this video with anyone that you think might benefit from it or may just like to see some positive content. Yeah, there's more to come. I mean that, for real. I just needed to take a break. So the last video that I posted, I talked about my first year in LA. And it was really surreal remembering a lot of those things and putting myself back in that place of where I was in 2015 and how much I've learned, right? It seems like some days it seems like it was 8 years ago and some days it seems like it was 8 months ago. Like, it's amazing looking back and being reflective on the things that have made us and shaped us into who we are. And so we're heading to year 2 today. I'm not going to go every single year because I've already chronicled like, I think 2019 to 2024 was the last video I did. So we're only going to go up to probably 2018, 2019 when my life began to take on a speed that I had never experienced before. So year 2, if you don't remember, I basically was ready to quit and had experienced just so much stuff. My friend circle had changed. I'd lost both of my grandparents. I had gone through a situation where I was fighting to get money. I don't even know if I added that, but that happened. Like, sorry, something came up. But like, trying to figure out how to be a working professional and also how to be an adult so far from everything that I knew, it was really overwhelming. Year 2 started with me. Oh, I talked about the David Foster gig. So yeah, I do the David Foster gig and I'm like, I'm about to be famous. Watch out, right? It's about to happen tomorrow. So I start singing with my cousin, Jason McGee, and he made a promise to me. He was like, I know you're not going to be here forever, but while you're singing with us, I want to make sure that people hear you sing. So everywhere we go, I'm going to try to make a point to give you a spotlight moment, right? And let people hear and see you. And he kept his word. I always thank him and speak of him in regards to him keeping his word. There were a lot of people who made me a lot of promises over this journey. Very few of them kept their promises and did what they said they would do. And he did just that. So for, I think, a year, no, 2 years, 2.5, because I joined the end of 2016, actively 2017, and then I had to leave the next year when things started taking off for me individually, as an individual. So for that year and some change, I had some amazing experiences and was able to make a little money that helped, you know? So freaking grateful for him. And that starts year 2. I started posting online on a fairly consistent basis. Some of those videos are here. Some of them are on my Facebook page. Posting covers that I would arrange with a few friends of mine from church, filmed by another friend of mine from church. And I was starting to get a rhythm going. As I started to take off with Jason McGee, one of my dear confidants, my cousin Joyce, who was just an angel to me, she passed that same September that I started singing and making money in LA. And it was just one of those moments where I just felt like, what? Like, she was one of the people that I was calling on a regular basis and checking in with me about my journey in LA. In many ways, I felt like she was the only one who really understood me at that time, or one of the few people who understood me. And then she was gone. And it was so confusing to me. I was so heartbroken and hurt. There's so many things that she told me were going to happen, and they're happening. And sometimes I still get a little sad that she's not here to see the things she prayed for and the things that she spoke to me in faith and prophetically. But I know she can see it. I know she's still with me, and I know she can see it. And I just have to have peace with that. You know, death is so weird. You want to be grateful for the moments you share, but also like, dang, I thought you were still going to be here. Like, there's so many things that have happened over the years, and I've just had to say, like, Joyce, I just have to believe you can see this, but I can't believe it. It's amazing. It's exactly what you said would happen. So I love her so much, and sad that she's not here with me physically, but knowing she is always here with me in spirit. I started getting text messages and phone calls. So the next thing was believing in myself. Like I mentioned before, putting my best foot forward, creating content. I had a lot of success. My videos were getting 20 and 30,000 views each one. And that was so encouraging and made me feel like, wow, something's really going to happen. So then, and I wrote my things down today so I don't have to jump around. I get invited to audition for The Voice, right? And it was so inspiring, uplifting. I thought, this is my moment, right? I went in, didn't have to go through the huge cattle call. I got a private audition. So I'm like, oh, they already have eyes on me. This is a moment. So I go in and I audition, and I don't even get to my second song. They go, thank you so much. Have a great day. They do it real sweet, but you're like, your ego just like nosedives to the floor. I did not react that well. I was really down about it. And if I had the tools I have now to regulate my emotions and check in with self, I would have acknowledged that it was really disappointing. And it made me question myself. I wish it didn't, but it did. At the time, I mean, The Voice is still a big deal, but it was a really big deal at the time because I think American Idol, if I'm not mistaken, was on hiatus. And so it was one of the only singing competitions that was really about singing, right? The whole idea of the chairs are turned and they don't know what you look like until you blow them away and then they flip their chairs, right? So I'm thinking this could be it. This could be my door. This could be the moment that changes my life forever. And it didn't. And so that leads me to another piece of wisdom. There's nothing wrong with dreaming, right? There's nothing wrong with having aspirations and dreams, but you have to leave a little air for it to not go the way that you think it will. I once heard somebody say, write your dreams down, but write them in pencil. And that's, I don't want that to sound negative or pessimistic, but it's really optimistic. We can't foresee the future or how things will go, but God can. And when we write our dreams in pen or tattoo them on our hearts, like many of us do, when they don't unfold the way you thought they would, it's catastrophic rather than just disappointing and like, okay, I'm going to see how you're going to put this in my favor. Like, I'm going to see how this all factors into the overall testimony and story of my life. I couldn't see that at the time. When you're really, really young, I was in my early 20s, you feel like every setback is like the end of the world because you don't have as many years on earth to look back and be like, oh, things always work out. They may not work out the way I thought they would, but they always work out in my favor because I can learn something from it. I develop relationships, I gain experience. All of those things, they matter in the long run when it comes to your development as a person and, in this particular case, me as an artist. So I was so disappointed, but I continued on singing for all of these different things. I started getting really involved. I'm now in 2017, if you guys are trying to keep track. I started getting really, really involved with my church. I joined the worship team at my church, and that was an experience. I've always had very interesting relationships with worship teams. I think when you're a professional singer, people look at you differently rather than I'm just here to worship and find community like everybody else. And so I can say that I developed a tribe from that worship team, and we've gone through so many stages of life with one another. But there were a few experiences that I wish I didn't have to experience. You know what I mean? Me just being so trusting and wanting to be liked, which leads me to my next point. It is okay to say no and set boundaries. It is okay for you to decide how you want to be treated and hold everyone to that standard. Everyone to that standard. If your desire to be liked exceeds your desire to be respected, that's a very dangerous thing. Very dangerous thing. I wanted to be liked so badly. I was so lonely in LA, and I just allowed myself to be treated and spoken to, and not just on the worship team situation, but just in general, in ways that were so unkind and unfair. And the problem with that is when you allow people to mistreat you or talk to you crazy or condescend or patronize, whatever you want to call it, repeatedly, at some point to keep allowing it, you have to agree with it. So you've got to agree with yourself that what they're saying and how they're saying it is okay for you to continue to allow it. And the work I've had to do to unlearn and forgive them and myself for allowing it is necessary because now I can share it with you. But there's nothing wrong. It does not make you bad. It does not make you a B word. It does not make you difficult. It does not make you a diva. People call that all kinds of stuff, particularly when women, namely people of color, women of color, Black women, set boundaries and say no. There's nothing wrong with you saying, oh, wait a minute. You don't have a right to speak to me that way. Or I don't really like the way that you're talking to me. Maybe we should revisit this conversation when, clear heads prevail. You know what I mean? But I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I could go hug my little young girl self and say, square up and speak your truth in love and make sure that people speak to you in love. You know what I mean? So, one of the great lessons that I learned. So, I'm auditioned for The Voice. It doesn't really work out. I'm now living in a really too expensive apartment, which has really been the story of my life in LA, truly. And I started working a part-time job. I started working with a nonprofit with a dear friend of the family. I started working there summer of 2016. So I think I actually may have mentioned this in the first video. But there came a point in the middle of 2017 where I knew God was leading me to quit. And it was so scary, not because I was making so much money, but that was consistent work. Everything else were just, spot dates, $100 here, $300 here, $200 here. Not enough to pay bills with, And it was hard, struggling every month. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my car note? How am I going to pay my car insurance? And so I had to believe. That's what all of this is about, especially when you are an entrepreneur and freelancer. Our faith walk is a little different than other people's because every month is faith. It's one thing to have faith and work in corporate America. Yes, you could be laid off and fired. That's why we have to put our trust in God and not in things and people. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur, especially in the entertainment industry, child, all of it is faith. Every day you wake up is faith that you're going to get a call, that someone's going to finally pay you for work you did a month ago. So yeah. What was I saying? Oh, I had to have faith and leave. That was scary. And I felt like I was disappointing them because, like I said, this is a friend of the family. I did not leave on bad terms at all, but I had to go. So I did. I believe I left in June of 2017, and I started a very quirky, interesting show called The Cho Show with, I believe, David Cho. It's on Hulu if you've seen it. If you may be here because you saw it on Hulu, who knows? But I never knew anyone was ever going to see that show. It was so interesting. I'm trying to find the word for eclectic, eccentric. A friend of mine and called a few more friends of ours to sing as a part of this kind of live art experience about healing, confronting childhood trauma, and finding yourself. And the message of it was really cool. It was the way the story was told. It was very surprising. But it was really cool to be a part of something that was trying to uplift and encourage people. And I had so much fun with my friends. The show was 8 hours. Everyone had their own station and the show was 8 hours. And so basically for 8 hours every day, we sang and talked. And we became really close. We shared a lot of things. And overall, it was a cool experience, I guess. I'm grateful for the check, right? That was the first gig. I literally quit my job and then got that call, I think the next week or that week. So I felt like, oh my goodness, like I'm stepping out on faith and God is meeting me. Things are working out. It's great. Then I had a really interesting experience of trying to help a loved one. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but I learned, going back to that setting boundaries, what I have done a lot in my life, and I don't regret this. So maybe that's the next point of wisdom. Do not resent who you are, how you were made. Some of us are very giving people. Like when you start thinking of ways you can help people. Buy them something that you heard they wanted or they mentioned in passing conversation, or give money to someone who's struggling, or let someone come stay with you, or let them borrow your car. Whatever it is in your nature to nurture and help. Anytime you help, it has to be with boundaries. because takers will always be attracted to givers. And I've noticed this cycle repeatedly in my life. It's not just with one person, which means it's not about them, it's about me, right? This notion of like, I'm going to give because I'm a good person and because hopefully you'll reciprocate when I'm in need. That is not so. One, there's some people who can't not give back to you the way you give. Their capacity is not as great as yours. Two, there's some people who have no desire to give back to you when you've given to them. And this particular instance and several that have followed have shown me to not resent my giving heart. This is how I was made, to give, to love, to be empathetic, to care and be compassionate when I see people in need, because I know what that feels like. I've been homeless. I've slept on people's couches. I've been in great need and been in that vulnerable position before. But you always have to help with boundaries. If someone's living with you, you got to give them a date. Or they're on the lease and they're your roommate. If you're giving money to somebody, it's got to be an amount with a specific time. And I've just learned these lessons. I was trying to give on a level that matched what was in my heart, but did not match what was in my bank account. And it caused me a lot of stress and anxiety. And if I could go back, I would tell myself, your why is good. Your how needs work. You need to set boundaries. I feel like that may be the theme of this video. And maybe that's for you who's watching this. You're in relationship with somebody, you're friends with somebody, and you constantly feel like they always need you. And that's a great thing, right? If you're in a relationship or a friendship with someone who's like, we're not counting coins. When you need it, I got it. And when I need it, you got it. That's ideal. But most relationships are not like that. And even if they are, they're not like that in every season. So I had to learn the hard way how to set boundaries. And it was difficult because the tough thing about setting boundaries is you find out what people really think about you. You think they love you when you're giving incessantly, when you're giving without any, like, it's like a bottomless pit. But the moment you say, hey, no, I can't help you with that, or I won't be able to help you this way anymore, to see how people really feel about you, which generally is very much linked to how they feel about themselves, it can be very painful. And sometimes that's what we're avoiding, the confrontation, the difficult conversation. But it is better for you to be uncomfortable for a moment than to be comfortable forever, right? Have the difficult conversation, set the boundaries so you can take care of yourself, okay? Set boundaries, period. One of the last things I want to talk about in this video, yes, we are rounding out. We've been on here for about, almost 20 minutes. You know, I like that 20-minute mark. I don't like to over talk you. I mentioned before how disappointed I was about The Voice and how that rejection I thought meant I would always be rejected, or because they didn't think I was right, that I would never be right or good enough. And I carried that with me a lot longer than I thought I did. That's something I've recently been like, where did that come from? And what has it produced in my life? The self-doubt, low self-picture in some areas. I've had to go back and investigate. And this was one of those core memories. We talk about core memories, but some of our core memories are negative. And me having to let that go. And you let it go because however you think you're being rejected, whether it's by a person, in a relationship, or a job, or an opportunity, it is only making space for where you're actually supposed to be. It is not an indication of who you are or your worth. It is never an indication of your worth. And that leads me to my next point. When you can make peace about what is not for you, you can speak life and have faith for that is. And I did something in 2017 that set the course for the rest of my life and just made me so excited for having faith and walking in faith. At the beginning of 2017, I told God I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be on TV. I really wanted my SAG card. And you get that from being on TV. You can pay the fee, but you also get that from being on TV or being in a feature film. I think you still have to pay something, though. Don't hold me to that. Google that if you're trying to take advice from me in this moment. I told God I wanted to be on TV. So I told you I took the Cho show in June. So nothing had happened come August. And there was an opportunity to be on the VMAs with Jason McGee, and I got it. And I was so excited and grateful, but that was September. In August, I almost started to settle within myself and be like, it's not going to happen this year. I'll just have faith for next year. But something told me like, no, I'm going to have faith. And me having faith for that moment, that one performance turned into, I believe, 2 performances, because we did the VMAs. I did the VMAs with Logic and Alessia Cara and Khalid for the 1-800 song about self-harm, and that there is a hotline to call if you're struggling with suicidal ideation. And that was the whole song, the 1-800 song. It was so impactful and powerful. That performance, I will never forget it. And I might include some clips or pictures at least. There were so many families represented on that stage of people who gave up. And I say that with great compassion because I have been in a place where I wanted to give up. And seeing those families, those mothers, those siblings, those loved ones, and being a part of that moment and seeing the impact it even had in the room. It was one of the most talked about performances that year at the VMAs. It just made me so happy. And it made me so grateful. It's one thing to do great things, but it's another thing to do great things for a purpose. And I can say throughout my career, they've always been purposeful. They've always been purposeful. So grateful for that moment. That led to a performance on the Ellen Show. So now I'm 2 performances in 2 weeks. I prayed in January, nothing happened until September, and within 2 weeks I have been on 2 major television programs, the VMAs and Ellen, which was the biggest talk show on TV at the time. Then, come November, another friend of mine called for me to do the Steve show. Steve Harvey had a show on the NBC lot. And we were able to do that show with a woman who was going to be living her dream on television, singing Midnight Train to Georgia. And after that performance, I got my first letter from SAG, basically telling me I needed to become a member before I started getting fined. But I got my letter. Putting things in perspective. So hold out hope. Like I said before, things don't go the way we plan them in our head, because there's a greater plan in place. But if you hold out hope and keep showing up and keep having faith and keep stepping out on faith, good things will happen. So that's year 2. Oh, I didn't talk about the week from hell. That's not year 2. Year 2 for me professionally ended in October. So I just told you I had this amazing year. I'd done the Cho show. I'd moved into a different apartment. I had done my TV appearances. By this point, I'd done VMAs and Ellen. I hadn't done the Steve show yet because that was November. So I was singing at this place called Lucky Strike in LA. There was like a open mic kind of show. Not open. A lot of open mics aren't open. You have to have an invitation. So that's what this was. And I decided with someone that it was going to be a residency. And I was so excited for this show. The idea was to have a show and then go from there and decide if we want to do a residency. And in this 1 week, there was a 3-day notice put on my door. My car got totaled. I wasn't driving it. A person I was letting use it totaled my car. And on my way to my performance at Lucky Strike, now mind you, I've sent invitations. I've been promoting it online. I've been making phone calls. I put money in this. I got money to pay my band, to get my makeup done. I'm literally in the car on the way to the venue. I get a phone call that says, don't come, it's closed. Like the building is closed. We're not able to get in. Why? Some person had rented out the whole thing and they didn't tell the person I was booking with until the day of. It was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. I had to go on social media and make a video and all this crap. Oh my God, I remember that feeling. I just wanted to sink into the floor. I'm driving a rental. I don't have a car. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. And my show gets canceled. It was trash. And that was the week I was like, so mind you, I've auditioned for The Voice. I'm preparing for the show. And I think I was about to audition for The Voice again. And I got turned away again. I didn't get to my second song again. Thank you so much. So I was so dejected and rejected and discouraged and depressed. And I just said to myself, God, if this is your sign that I'm not supposed to be a solo artist, got it. But the unfortunate thing was I made that decision. That was never a confirmation. I never heard that. I never felt that. It was just, I got so caught up in my feelings and how it felt to put your all out there and get nothing from it but an experience. I wasn't used to finding gratitude in that at the time, and so I didn't. And I didn't quit in word, but I quit in my heart. And I can even say there have been moments throughout the years that I've gone back to put my all in myself. I did it in 2020. I was in the gym gym in my room because we couldn't go nowhere, right? I was doing recording sessions on a regular basis. I've recorded about 3 songs that you guys haven't heard yet. Hold your horse. It's coming. I promise it is. I promise it is. I spent way too much money on it for it not to come. But that was the first time I gave up. And like I told you, I've been in a very reflective place and I've had to go back to like, oh, where did that come from? And it took me back to 2017. It's so important to get right perspective on your painful moments, because if not, they will become the narrative of your life. Whew. When I look back on that, it was just a bad week. It wasn't what was going to define my life. But at the time, that's how I perceived it. And that became a belief. Our thoughts, if unchecked, become belief systems. And they become our narrative for our lives. And that became a belief system. I won't win. I will put everything in what I do, and it still will come up with nothing. I will come up empty-handed every time. Let me just play it safe and not dream too big, because dreaming hurts. And here is why I'm ending this video with this. Because it was a lie. Everything I've done from that moment has proven it to be a lie, even though in my heart I carried it as a belief. And so I'm encouraging you. First of all, this was not the end of my story, nor will your negative moments or even your bad weeks, bad months, bad years define your life and what's possible for your life. That's why, and I told you, I'm a woman of faith, so you're going to get faith on this channel. That's why it's so important to have a relationship with God. His perspective will always be greater than yours. In your perspective, what looks like the end of the world is a beautiful new beginning in another direction. The reason why The Voice didn't work out, those shows, many of those shows didn't work out. I've tried to put out an EP several times and it didn't work out, was I was in a learning season. A learning season is when you feel like you're buried and no one can see you. It's when you're developing and learning all of the skills, the character, the discipline, the work ethic that you're going to need for the rest of your journey. That's what these 7 years of me being full-time have been. And I never thought it was going to take that long. I thought it was going to be an overnight success. But man, had I got what I wanted when I thought I wanted it, it would have killed me. It would have destroyed me. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my worth. I didn't know myself. So I don't know where you are in your journey, and it may not make sense. You may feel like God forgot about you, that it's never going to happen. Let this be a reminder that that is a lie. Everything that you were promised and everything you were created to do, you're going to do. It's just not going to happen the way that you think it will, which is really good. Because when I look back at what I've learned over these 7 years, what I've developed, the priorities I have now, I'm so grateful God made me wait. So grateful. I know who I am. I know who I'm not. And that is the blessing. And when I get to telling you about year 3, this bad week in October, child, you're going to be like, you was pressed over that? Year 3 got so good. Year 3 became year 4, and then the world shut down. But it's only getting better from here. And that's the same for you. I love you. I've been on here so much longer than I thought I would be. But I hope you're inspired. I'm coming on here pouring my heart out because I've learned so many things over this journey that I think can be a blessing to someone else. People are blessed by our vulnerability and our honesty. So I will see you on the next episode. I probably will be in the same outfit because I feel like I need to film these in batches. So see you soon in the same fit. Bye.